Yo, what's going on, you guys? Ross here, and today we're going to be doing the Critical Ops PC optimization guide for you guys. This one's going to be a little bit quick. I'm going to try not to take too long with this, but I do want to be thorough about with the optimization because I'm pretty sure now the game is at a spot where it can run pretty well, I would say now. There used to be a lot of problems where people had to use like lossless scaling because of like the inputs and whatnot. But I'm hoping this video kind of just gives you a gist on how to properly optimize your game for a better FPS and just more consistency, rather than it being all sporadic and just people having to deal with constant issues. So disclaimer, this isn't really going to be guaranteed like working on every single build, or you know what I'm saying, for PCs, for rigs, for laptops. And this is also going to be mostly for Nvidia people. If you're someone that is using like CPU graphics, or if you're using AMD. If you're using AMD, you can kind of follow along and figure out which like things I'm kind of flipping whenever we get to the Nvidia optimization portion of the video. But outside of that, like I said before, it's just going to be all over the place, and just try and follow along with me whenever it comes down to this. Basically, it's not going to be guaranteed to work for every other rig, but this should be able to help a lot of people that's been having a lot of issues with like stability, or maybe just input to a degree. We're going to do Windows settings, and then we're going to do Nvidia control panel, and then we'll do the actual game settings inside for Critical Ops. So the first thing I feel like a lot of people really need to do is, this is like the basic approaches for like your Windows optimization. And the first thing you really want to do is to turn off background apps. So all you gotta do is go to your settings. I'm using the run command. If you want to type this in, it's ms settings. If you want to type this out here, privacy background apps, go here and it'll launch this, and it's going to have a check that says let apps run in the background. You click this off and you just turn off everything else. You seriously do not need anything to be running in the background, because what Windows likes to do is it likes to eat up a lot of your resources because of the OS. It wants to be able to get as much data as it can as possible for the apps that you use. When it comes to like, you know, your information and whatnot, that's kind of how they kind of get to know a lot of that stuff. Turn off background apps completely. Everything needs to be off. Practically, you don't really need it. Anything, I promise you. This is only going to slow your PC down, and that's where you kind of get a little bit latency from. The next thing you essentially want to do is open up your task manager and do control alt delete to open up your task manager, and go into your startup here, and you essentially want to disable everything. Nothing really should be running. I just have my Brave browser right now. It's enabled because I'm technically using it right now, but everything, and I literally mean everything, should be disabled. Startup literally eats up so much resources. It's insane. Whenever you have startup apps, it literally, whenever you launch your PC, it is literally fighting itself to get all of your apps launching at one time, and this slows progress on your PC. This makes it run very sluggish in the background. As I said before, Windows will do anything and everything in its power in order for it to be, you know what I'm saying, data mine, data collecting, to get the best user experience for you, and they just simply just have everything on default, yes, to startup and for background. So these simply completely turn all of them off. You don't need it at all. You can simply just open up your apps on your own, by yourself. I'm telling you, this is going to literally save you so much time. It's going to make your PC feel so much more better. Please turn off startup apps. The next thing you want to inherently do is to go into display settings by right clicking on your desktop, and you're going to go down into let me see, where is it at, graphics settings. So graphics settings, if you really want to use hardware accelerated GPU, you can turn it on, but you'll have to completely restart your PC. It does reduce latency and improve performance. I never really noticed much changes with this, and I've kind of had issues with it on with other games, so I just have it off for right now until I kind of do want to turn it on. But essentially what we want to do is we're going to be looking for the exe that runs your games, which is essentially like the exe that runs like your Google Play games, virtual machine, whenever you launch a game. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into browse. So just follow along with me. Go into browse. We're going to go into your C drive. Your C drive, this is your main drive. So you only have one drive, is literally going to be your main drive that has Windows installed. You can see the little Windows icon right here. You're going to go into your main drive. You're going to scroll down until you see program files. You're going to double click. You're going to scroll down until you see Google. Double click. Play games. Double click. Current. Emulator. And then cross vm.exe. This is exactly what you want right here. and I already have this enabled right here, and it should be this one right here. It should say play games dash game platform, and it's going to say let Windows decide at first. You're going to come into options, and you're going to do high performance. If you're running a GPU, it'll probably do it for CPU or whatever the hell it is. Do high performance. Never do power saving. Don't let Windows decide, because Windows will decide to power save whenever you're running the game. You don't want to do that. Just do high performance. Click save, and that should be good. This section should be good, right? The next thing you really want to do is to turn off game bar. Game bar quite literally sucks. You do not need Windows game bar. Please do not ever use Windows game bar in your life. If you actually have Nvidia or AMD, just use that software for whether it be for clipping or for recording. It is 10 times better. Or if you use Metal, anything literally but Xbox game bar, it hogs up so much resources. Don't use it, please. I'm begging you. Turn this off. It eats up resources. It's not good for you. But what you also want to have on is game mode. So yes, when you want to turn game mode on. When game mode's on, it optimizes your PC to play. It prioritizes high performance for your CPU and your GPU ahead for scheduling, and it's going to be a lot more better. The next thing before we kind of move on into the Nvidia control panel is you're going to do Control Alt Delete, and what you essentially want to do is go into your task manager, right? And then you're going to go into details. Now, what you want to do, like before you go into details, is you want to launch your critical ops, because you won't be able to essentially see the cross VM in the details, and you need to have the cross VM in details. You're going to do is exit full screen, just minimize this, and you're going to go into your task manager, and you're going to scroll down until you see, let's see, cross svm.exe. It can be either one, it doesn't matter, it'll change every single one. You're going to go to set priority, and you're going to go to high. Never ever use real time. This is going to throttle your CPU, because it's going to push all of its resources onto the game, and it's going to throttle your performance. It's not going to feel good. Never use real time. Use high. High is always going to be best if you want for your CPU to be prioritization whenever it comes to running a when you're running an app on your PC. You want this to be priority, so that way it's running at tip-top shape. When you change this, it's probably going to change every single one. Just do right click every single one and go to high. Usually I use process lasso, and I scroll down here and I find it, but you'll probably just scroll up into cross svm.exe, and you'll do CPU priority. I do always and then high, so that way I don't have to change it no matter what. And you always want to do high. This will make sure that your game is prioritized for your CPU, so it manages it a lot more well. It keeps it stable whenever you're running the game, nothing else in the background. Another tool is to never really have anything else really running in the background whenever you're playing this, because technically it is a emulator slash virtual machine. So yeah, don't do that. So now we're going to be moving on to Nvidia control panel. So walk with me here. What you want to do is, you're probably not going to have as many settings as I have right here, because I have a 4060 Ti. Some of you could have more settings, some of you could have less settings. Just follow with me. If I don't have the actual, if you don't have the option, just skip over it. Don't worry about trying to figure out where it is. Skip over it, okay? You're gonna go to adjust image settings for preview, and you're going to do first click use my preference emphasizing, and do click performance, and then you're going to go advanced 3D image settings and then click apply, right? It's gonna freeze for a little bit. That's completely fine, right? What you also want to do is come into manage 3D settings, and then you're going to go all the way into program settings here, right? And it's going to take a little bit of a minute to load this, because it has to grab every single program that you essentially use and that your PC has installed, including the ones that you recently opened, right? What you want to do is you want to click add. Mine is not responding right now because it's loading every single fucking 3D setting. Just give it a sec. I'll skip up in a second. All right, and then whenever we're on add, you're going to see all these programs, and we're going to scroll down till we see cross svm.exe. If you do not see it scrolling in this tab, what you want to do is go to browse. You're going to do the same thing I told you. In your C drive, you're going to come down into program files. You're going to come down into Google, play games, current, emulator, cross svm.exe, and open, right? Now, if you want, you can copy all of my settings here. Well, obviously, I would want you to copy a lot of this, because a lot of this is mostly optimized for it. I'm still fiddling around with some settings and making sure that maybe that there's probably a setting that kind of turn on or off if I want the best type of consistency. But this is the most consistency I've been having with essentially just the game itself. So essentially, it'll say like use a global setting all. You can do use these CPUs and use your GPU for the game. So it'll be all sysmin fallback policy, prefer it, low latency mode, ultra. If you don't have ultra, do on. That's completely fine. If you don't have ultra, do on. Okay, all right. And then what you're gonna do is monitor technology. You fix refresh. If you don't have it, just use global setting. Doesn't matter. Don't change it. Okay. From down, OpenGL GDI compatibility, prefer performance. Okay. OpenGL rendering GPU, use your GPU. If you're using a CPU, it'll probably do like your CPU or your graphics. Just use your GPU. If you don't have a GPU, use your CPU. Okay. Power management mode, do prefer maximum performance. It'll say probably maybe high performance for some of you guys. Just do the max, do high, it doesn't matter. NCOtropic sample optimization, do this on. Negative LOD bias, allow this. You know, texture filtering quality, high performance. If you don't have high performance, do performance. You get the idea, right? Trilinear optimization, on. Okay, threaded optimization, on. Triple buffering, if you really want, you can turn this off or on. In my opinion, I usually use it off. I think triple buffering does to a degree help for some people. Kind of play around with it, see if you notice any differences with like with input and maybe your game feeling a little bit more faster or whatnot. I just use it off. Okay, vertical sync, you can use the 3D application or do it off. I highly recommend not having vertical sync. Please don't do vertical sync. Okay, unless you have like a 60 hertz monitor. If you have a 60 hertz monitor, then yeah, you can use vertical sync, right? And you want to do fast, right? You want to do fast or on, but I think fast is better. So, and then pre-rendered frames, always on one, never want to go higher. And then the Vulkan OpenGL present method, you could do auto, which auto, what it does is just goes to native. So you can just do prefer native or just leave it auto. After that, these are all the settings that essentially that I use for, you know, saying the game. You want to click apply. It's going to freeze for a little bit. It's going to apply everything and boom, right? Now, you're going to come down here, configure surround. Come over here, physics settings, processor, choose your GPU. Always choose your GPU. If you don't have a GPU, yes, you can use your CPU. Highly recommend using your GPU. Please, for the love of God, use your GPU. And anything over here, right? Set up G-Sync, don't use G-Sync or whatever sync or anything else like that. And that should be mostly it here for our Nvidia control panel settings. Not really much that you would need essentially to really turn off or on there. So we can kind of finally move on into the games. There is a couple of settings, but like I said, I have a lot of my PC optimized for gameplay, and I'm just trying to make sure that it's a lot more easier for a lot of people to understand. I don't want to move too far into it, but the one thing also before we go into it is you want to do Windows and R to do open up run. So always press Windows and R at the same time, open up the run command, okay? And what you're going to do here is you're going to go to optional features. You're going to type in optional features, no spaces, optional features, right? Go okay, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down until we see virtual machine platform and Windows hypervisor platform. Now, hypervisor essentially makes the game run a lot more stable at higher FPS, but apparently some people have been saying that you do get high FPS, but there's occasional frame dips on, you know, in some cases, right? If you want a more stable FPS, but you don't get the highest FPS depending on your rig, you can turn this off. Personally, I would really highly request you just leave this on because the frame dips isn't really all that bad. And over time, that's going to be fixed. I promise you, it's not that bad. But also, what you want to have also checked is the virtual machine platform. Turn this on. This is going to ensure the best amount of stability for you as well. And I promise you, it's going to save you in the long run. Just do both of those and just click OK. It's probably going to tell you to restart your PC. Simply restart your PC. Now we can finally get into the game, which some of the game settings you're definitely going to have to understand and like change, but it's never anything too crazy. So whenever we open the game here, we're going to be opening up critical ops here. The very first thing you want to do is go into the settings here. If you're in full screen, just do shift tab, and then what you want to do is click those little this little icon right here that says visual settings, and you're gonna go into maximum FPS and choose your highest FPS. Essentially, you just want to choose your highest FPS and just do that. Now, if you have a certain hertz monitor that you do not see your option here, you're gonna have to want to create a custom resolution. That's also really easy. You'll go into your control panel, whether it be AMD or if you're AMD or if you're say Nvidia, you can come here, change resolution, and you can simply change your refresh rate to whatever you need to suit possible. Or you can, like I said, do a custom res, right? You can do a custom res that's able to, it just let me be able to, come on now. It just was able to let me customize it, right? You can do customize here, and essentially you have to switch your res, and then you can add one, and you can just do a custom refresh rate and go that way. If you're only CPU graphics, you want to go into display settings, and then you want to scroll down into advanced display, and then you want to change this into, oh, that's my display 1, display 2. You want to change this to your highest or whatever is possible for you. So boom, right? So we're gonna go back into the game, do that, right? And then we're gonna go over the settings together, okay? So graphics, this is essentially what I use. I use aspect ratio fitting camera 1:1. You don't have to copy my graphic, any of this outside of the frame rate. You can change any of this. You don't really need to change, right? But I will give some tips here. I use low texture qualities. It's a competitive shooter. You don't really need to see the most, visual fidelity for anything. I use low. You can get away with maximum. It literally doesn't have that big of a performance impact, right? I use high skin quality and high shader level detail. You can use low. I don't mind it. You can use low. It does help with performance, but I just do high. I do level of detail maximum. This doesn't really affect performance as much, and it really just doesn't really matter that much, so I just use maximum. And then anti-aliasing, I do none, because it does have a pretty big impact on how it is smoothing out edges inside of the game, inside of the world. I use none, or sometimes I use 2x, right? Tracers, always important. You can see where your spray is essentially going. I have that on. Environmental particles, this is mostly just for flare. You can turn this off, honestly. I use it on. I don't use projected decals. Completely turn this off. And I use the lowest amount of dynamic lights that's created by fire. No point in adding even more lights into your game. It is just pointless. And yeah, that should mostly be it, mostly for the optimization guide, I would say. Hopefully that really helps out a lot of you guys here, because I usually get asked a lot of the times to to mostly come up with a guide or anything like that to help optimize for PC. I know a lot of people that are playing PC that are getting into critical ops mostly just ask me, like, how do you for FPS and for input. There is a couple of things that you could do for your input that kind of slightly makes a difference, but it's really rare. It's really nothing. I feel like everything that I've already talked about should help to some degree. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to me in my Discord. It's gonna be just Frost without the V2 on my YouTube handle. And yeah, that should be it. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, as always, peace. Mm-hmm.